Hey everybody, and welcome to another model building workshop. I'm Mr. Allen from the Smith Hill Library here in Providence, Rhode Island, part of the Providence Community Library. And today we're going to be talking about the Bloch 210. This is a French night bomber that was used very early in World War II. And this is a kit that's been around for quite a while now from Heller Models. This is the Heller Humbrol boxing, where Humbrol had control of the Heller model line for a little while, not that long ago. So this kit has been reissued many times over, and it's been around probably since the 70s, early 70s, maybe even before that. So it's a French bomber, and I like odd subject matter like French aircraft. A lot of people, it's an acquired taste. But I was going to show you this old kit and show you some interesting things about this. So the Bloch 210 was first put on the drawing board in 1933, and it was designed to replace some of the older aircraft in the bomber fleet at that time, and one of which was the Marcel Bloch 200, which is the earlier bomber designed by the same firm. And the 200, which I'll show you a picture. The 200 here had a higher wing and fixed landing gear. So this was used in the early 30s and actually was still in use in World War II in some capacities. The Bloch 210 was in use in the 30s, and in 1939 they were still around. They were being phased out, though. They were starting to be phased out by more modern bombers, because once the French entered World War II in September of 39, they realized a lot of their aircraft and some of their other weapon systems were outdated, and they were trying to rapidly improve and modernize their air fleet. So a number of these Bloch 210s had been phased to second line duties by May of 1940, when the Battle of France began. But there were still squadrons operating these at that point during the Battle of France itself. In 1939, a number of these were in use and did some reconnaissance missions and did some early bombing runs, and they did find that there were some issues with this aircraft, thus they were trying to replace them. So as you can see, this is in a all green paint scheme, including underneath is painted all green. It was designed, to be a night bomber, so a solid green color wasn't necessarily, a bad idea, because it was going to be flying mostly at night anyhow. And the pre-war colors tended to be solid green, though they would have had natural steel engine cowlings. I'll show you one of the, there's the 200. As you can see, there's silver engine cowlings, and the 210, and a lot of the other French bombers at the time did as well. Get to the 210 here. Give me a second. It's not alphabetic because it's chronological. Okay. We'll just move ahead. This is a fantastic book, by the way, on French bombers of the period. And here's the 210 here. And its development. So as you can see, here's the kind of the pre-war colors with the silver going on there. And a lot of them went to war like that in 39. But they started to paint over the engine cowlings, and some, by May of 1940, had switched over to a complete camouflage scheme like this one here. Not all, because they, once the battle got underway, they just kind of had to go with what they had. After the Battle of France, some of them served on with the Vichy French regime here, under the control of the Germans. And of course, some found their way to other Axis nations, because Germany sent these to other countries, such as Romania here, which used them in the early stages of the war on the Eastern Front. So yeah, this is a fantastic book by MMP Books here, French Bombers of World War II. Great book if you're interested in the French. And sorry as I go. Woo! Should probably put these up higher, right? Anyway, we need the exercise. Another interesting book is by Squadron Signal Publications here, which is French Bombers of World War II. You can see here I got this for like $9, so not too bad. This was the Leo bomber here, which is a later bomber which was coming into play in 1940 and thus replacing these old aircraft. That is I think it's the Loire et Olivier 451 is that one. So just going to do a quick peek at here. Yeah, there's a list of different French bombers here, and you can see the 210 is here as well, Romanian and in a French scheme. So let's talk about the model. This is a Heller model, although this has been around for a while, and here's the instruction sheet. Is a little busy, and most of it is just, this is a all blow-ups here. So you have the engine construction. I put some notes down to try to break down these Heller Humbrol colors, because they're not very common in the United States, and that's a British paint line. And it shows it's a very busy sequence. A lot of glass on the French bombers of the 30s. And lots and lots of glass parts. It's got turrets. It's got these corrugated like supports, struts on there. And like I said, it's a very simple plane for painting. It's just green, and that's it. Which sometimes simple is kind of nice. Just, you know, you just use one spray can of green, and you're done practically. Aside from some touch-ups and propellers and wheels and so forth, that's it. So I'll show you where I am with this kit. So I'm trying to get the parts ready to put together, and I put the windows in, and I did some preliminary painting on the interiors, and we'll see how this goes. The Bloch Aircraft Company tended to use a yellow-brown, apparently, color for the interior of their aircraft. So I'm using like a dark yellow, like a German dark yellow here, and hoping that's a good equivalent, since I don't really have any good, references to what that's going to look like. I mean, if you look through the cockpit there and see the yellow, you get a little bit of an idea what it is, but not much. So that's what I'm trying to do. And as you can see, this is a series of flat pieces for the floor that you're going to have to carefully try to, I have to bend this a bit to fit, sit them in there and kind of go around and put that together, put the top on. And as you build it, this plane did get a nasty nickname because it had a lot of accidents. So French pilots refer to this thing as the Flying Coffin because of its tendency to crash, at least the early models. So the Flying Coffin is what it's called, and if you kind of look at the design, it does kind of look like a coffin. That really is inspiring to a pilot, I'm sure. I don't think the plane had a particularly good history and didn't have the greatest success rate, but then it fought on, it soldiered on, and the Romanians used it to some extent with some success on the Eastern Front, although I think they were withdrawn by 1942. I think it just went that first year during Operation Barbarossa. I don't know if any of these were still around by the time of the Stalingrad battles in 42. Not sure. But some other French planes were still in use, I've noticed, with the Romanians into 42, like the Poté fighter planes, for example, and fighter bombers. So who knows? But as you can see, is some of the parts here. It does carry some rather large bombs that it's going to have underneath the fuselage, though I believe it had an interior bomb bay as well. You know, large wing pieces with some support struts on there. So again, this is a 1930s aircraft, so this has got some interesting 1930s tech going on. And here's some of the glass parts. It's free here for the turrets, which might be fun trying to paint the frames to those. But there's all of the glass work, well, other than the ones that are already on there. And then you got the engine and wheel well bays there to go on as well. Decals for this one are pretty simple. And they look to be in pretty good shape. Since this is a later boxing of this model, it's not a 70s boxing, which is this is really a newer one. But it's got some fun emblems there. Some of the French 30s emblems are pretty fun looking. Yeah. So we'll see how this goes together. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And Heller made a lot of these French aircraft, between fighter planes, bombers, and whatnot. And we'll see how this goes together. All right, we'll talk to you guys next time on the Model Building Workshop. Have a good one. Be safe. Thank you for watching.